To welcome you to this joint press takeout organized by the United Nations and ECOWAS. Like we earlier indicated to you at the airport, the first text that was read was just a draft, and that was erroneous. We apologize for that. So the proper text now is going to be read by His Excellency Babatuni Ajisomo, Ambassador of ECOWAS. So I'd like to welcome you to this joint United Nations and ECOWAS press takeout. After the communique is read, then we will entertain a few questions and then we'll close. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. So good evening, gentlemen of the press. We apologize for the delay. As I rightly mentioned to you, we're here to provide you with the authentic text, the authentic communique that reflects exactly what transpired during the visit of the joint mission of the United Nations of West Africa and the Sahel and the ECOWAS Commission. ECOWAS United Nations Joint Good Offices mission to the Republic of Liberia, 26 or 27 December 2019, communique. As part of their mandates, the ECOWAS Commission and United Nations Office in West Africa and the Sahel, ECOWAS, undertook a joint mission to the Republic of Liberia from 26 to 27 December 2019. The objective of the mission was to reiterate the commitment of the two organizations to supporting the efforts of the country of the sub-region, particularly the Republic of Liberia, towards sustaining peace and development. The mission delegation, composed of the Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security of the ECOWAS Commission, the United Nations Deputy Special Representative of the Secretary General for West Africa and the Sahel, ECOWAS, the Special Representative of the President of the ECOWAS Commission in Liberia, the United Nations Resident Coordinator in Liberia, and the Director of Political Affairs of the ECOWAS Commission. During the mission, the delegation was received an audience by the President of the Republic, His Excellency George Manuel Weah. The delegation also met with government officials, including the Ministers for Justice, Labor, Commerce, Internal Affairs, Deputy Inspector General of Police for Administration and Operations, with the Council of Patriots, COP, political parties, traditional leaders, Interreligious Council, the Federation of Liberian Youth, and the Civil Society Organization, CSOs. During the interactive sessions, the delegation highlighted the growing security threats in the West African and the Sahel region, and in particular, the fragility of the situation in the Republic of Liberia. After intensive and inclusive consultations and discussions with the various stakeholders, the delegation reiterates that the provisions of the Constitution of Liberia should prevail at all times and encourages all parties to abide by the Constitution of the country. In this regard, the delegation acknowledges that the incumbent president is democratically elected and has a legitimate mandate of 6 years. 2, while insisting that the right of peaceful assembly and freedom of the press are guaranteed by the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia, the delegation reminded all stakeholders of their responsibility to maintain peace, security, and stability of Liberia, noting that the right of assembly should be in conformity with the provisions of the laws, and cautioned against any form of violence for which they will be accountable. 3, the delegation welcomes the general desire to call off the protests of 30th December if specific actions were taken in addressing some of the governance and economic issues which form the basis of the current tension in the country. The delegation also notes with pleasure the interest of the government in addressing the relevant issues aimed at calming the tension and calling off the protests. The delegation further notes with satisfaction the ongoing efforts of the government and its partners towards this end and calls on the government to do more. The delegation takes seriously the assurances of the government of providing the details of this commitment during the State of the Nation address. The delegation encourages the government to establish, with the support of ECOWAS, United Nations, and its partners, a platform and mechanism for a sustainable and an all-inclusive dialogue for the peace, security, and stability of the country, and thereby eliminating undue recourse to demonstration and protest. In this context, the delegation exhorts all parties to work towards calling on this imminent protest in the general interest of Liberia and the sub-region. Done in Monrovia, this day, 27 December 2019. I thank you for your kind attention.
Okay. We'd like to thank His Excellency for the reading of this communique. We entertain 4 questions from the press and then we'll close. Please call your name. Introduce yourself and your media institution.
Ambassador, thank you so much. My name is Emmanuel Davis. I report for KMTV. Well, according to you, the first statement read at the airport was erroneous, but that statement was read in your presence. Why didn't you make the necessary change at the airport in the presence of the gentleman who read it, but you had to come to your headquarters here before, I want to say, authoring the statement?
Thank you, Emmanuel. We didn't say it was erroneous. We say it was a draft. It was a work in progress, as we say in diplomatic parlance. You could notice that the delegations, they were in a hurry. They came with a special aircraft, and they needed a particular time to get back to Bissau, and from Bissau, some members of the delegation will be leaving for Dakar, Senegal. So at the time they were reading the draft communique, some members of the delegation were already running to the aircraft. So, but then it was a painstaking effort of 2 days, since yesterday, and even before now, myself and the resident coordinator, the Interreligious Council, and other stakeholders have been working, towards, this effort. You get the point? So it wasn't erroneous; it was a work in progress.
Okay. My name is Young T, Topa report for OKFM, and just on the airport, we saw that KMTV were doing this live, and then viewing the social media as we came here, seeing that a lot of government supported and swelling your entire statement on a one-sided note by saying, look, the protest acknowledging that the president was being elected for 6 years, so many automatically, there is no need to call for a weird step down that is being insinuated by the Council of Patriots. How could you respond to that?
Oh, very simple. The Council of Patriots acknowledged during our meetings that they were willing, they were ready, to have a peaceful assembly. In other words, they made a commitment that their desire, was to call off. You understand? Their desire was to call off a step-down campaign. You get the point? They said it clearly, they said it emphatically, and that, is reflected, in what we have put here. It's not something that we concocted, it was something that flowed, from the interactive section that we had with them. And then it is also based on the provisions of the Constitution. The Constitution of Liberia is very clear. There's a provision there, Article 17, that guarantees peaceful assembly. There is no provision in the Constitution for step down. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take this next person.
Okay, my name is Atima Sina and I work for the Bush Chicken. The Bush Chicken online.
I see.
Yeah. So earlier on the Council of Patriots wrote the government asking for protection for their peaceful assembly. The government through the Ministry of Justice has certified if the Council of Patriots had gone to the street, they will have charged them for treason. So that means that the government was now waiting to provide the right of the Council of Patriots to protest. So during your engagement with both the government and other parties, including the COP, what special assurances did the government give you to provide protection for members of the COP in their quest to peacefully assemble?
The right to peaceful assembly comes also with clear provisions of how this right has to be exercised. It has to be in conformity with law, which stipulates that you have to seek and obtain the permits, and also seek and obtain security protection for your people. This is done with the perfect understanding that while you seek to assemble, you should assemble in such a way that people who also happen to cohabit with you on the same territory are not prejudiced or victimized in any way. So the police has a responsibility to keep order and make sure that you exercise your right clearly, and the others also exercise their right clearly.
So
And therefore, well,
Just finish.
and therefore, what we from the international system insist on is that those who want to assemble must work out with the government the appropriate arrangements that respect both rights. We have obtained from the government that if it is clear that such assembly is not subversive, it does not take away the provisions of the Constitution, does not challenge the provisions of the Constitution, then it can be provided. But the two parties involved should come to understanding as how to exercise this without harming the interest of third parties.
Okay, we'll entertain 2 more questions and then we close.
Yes.
Well, my name is Augustine Octavius, and I'm from Palm FM. Have you, UN/ECOWAS, made any plan to observe the December 30th peaceful demonstration?
It is not for us to make plans. For them, the government and those who want any citizens as to how we conduct this. What we do is we monitor. We're monitoring to see that nobody's interests are prejudiced on this occasion, and that the peace that we have invested in over a long period in terms of resources, money, effort, and time would not be in any way jeopardized. So what we are monitoring is to see whether people will conform to the rules and the regulations and the law that have been established to this regard. Those who unduly cause prejudice to other people's interests or have the mind to cause any chaos, it doesn't matter which side they came from, will be held to account, as we have said in this communication. The people who traveled all the way from headquarters to come and deliver this message made it clear to all parties concerned. This is a serious declaration that anybody who intends to cause havoc, anybody who intends to cause harm to people who are not in any way, who are not in any way involved in things that are detrimental to their rights, anyone who causes that will be held to account.
Okay, we'll take the last question.
Yeah. Good evening, sir. I'm Chad Davis from DLBC. You've been attending these 2 days meetings, and some of what been coming up, according to you, government has already been, you have acknowledged that government has already been making some strides to achieve some of these things. What specifically, have been coming up from these meetings as things that government should be working on? And besides, what's the responsibility now given to the plain protesters? Because this is the second time this year that protest is coming up. Can you just comment on that a little bit?
Yes, I will. Incidentally, I was centrally involved in the June 7th protests, with all the negotiations with both the government, the COP, and all the stakeholders. So, but to go specifically to your question, what were the things that came out, out of this discussion as to what the government, the efforts, the ongoing efforts of the government? The ministers that represented government during this meeting explained to everybody the efforts of government, which we have also seen, especially with respect to trying to sanitize, the banking, the financial systems. With respect to the Crow report, you all remember the Crow report that the USAID funded, as well as the presidential task force on the 16 billion and 25 million. The efforts that government is making, which we are now saying that government should also do more, by communicating with the Liberian, and that is exactly what we are doing also here, letting the public through you to know. But we want the government to also do more in this area. For instance, a Kroll, we have been told, they'll be coming in January, to work with the central bank to see that the banking system, is well sanitized, to ensure that there is transparency, there's accountability, in the financial system. And then, of course, also, there are governance issues. The ministers also explained, some of the issues concerning governance that the government is committed to. So these are the things that we said we want government to do more in this area for the benefit of the people.
Let me add this.
Yeah.
It emerged clearly from our discussions.
Yeah.
Particularly from a question that was put to several of the parties, that the only reason why they want to undertake a further protest on the 30th of December was that they felt the protest they held earlier on in the year did not yield the fruits they were expecting. And the fruits were that they wanted government to listen to them, and it seems to them that government hasn't listened to them. It seems to them that while government is saying some of the results that should have been attended to the wishes that these protesters had expressed at that time are being, some of these results are clear and that they should see. The problem therefore is what the government sees and what the government says is not what the other party sees or what the other party says. It is for this reason that we made it clear to both sides that if they can dialogue well, if we provided them with a mechanism by which they could meet to talk, not only these two parties that are involved in the protest, all Liberians of various sectors could meet, talk, and feel that they consent to their government after they have elected the government, that they are part of this country and the process by which this country is being governed, that they are sent to policies that they believe or do not for a moment understand that it may be to the interests of the country, that they are made to understand, they are made to know, and this is where you, the press, have a particular responsibility also to show down this matter. That information should be shared and should flow freely, and objective facts, not concocted stories, facts should be made available to the people, so that people can make up their minds about the reality and not necessary fantasies. This emerged clearly, and therefore you can see from the communique that we are setting up mechanisms in a way that will allow all Liberians who feel aggrieved or who have misgivings about how the country is being run can come to, and they can exchange. We can provide them with the facts. They can look at the facts. This is why we just mentioned that with the $16 billion, $25 million and all this, facts, independent facts, adduced from investigations by independent and institutions with integrity, can put the facts at your disposal, and you will examine these yourself. It is absolutely important for this country at this period of its development to understand one thing, and it is very important for them to understand. The UN international community has contributed to this country's stability for over a long period. When Liberians were in exile, we were there to provide them with the support they needed so they wouldn't die. They came back to their country, we here 15 years, provide them with the minimum that is required for them to build their institutions. The institutions have been built. So they cost a lot of money and time and effort, and they are to serve the interests of the Liberians themselves. Right? Anybody who would cause institutions to fall or who would create chaos is certainly not somebody who wants the welfare of the Liberians. We want these institutions that are now in place to be used to address poverty, to address inequities, to address insecurities, to address the fundamental needs of the Liberians. But to do this, they need peace and stability. So every measure that we can take to forestall unnecessary chaos and unnecessary, you know what I mean, dissipation of effort, we will put in what is required to stop it, because it is important that Liberians begin to live well and know what it is that is called a nation that has been built by them.
Finally, let me close. The chairman of authority of ECOWAS, heads of states and government, His Excellency Mr. Muhammad Yusuf, it's concerned, as all the head of states in the sub-region, about the growing security challenges in our sub-region, and in particular that of Liberia. And they have called on all parties, through us, through the delegation that came, that peace and stability must be sustained so that development can flow in. What Liberians need now, and which is very urgent, is improvement in their well-being. Liberians need improvement in their well-being, improvement in their standard of living. And ECOWAS, the United Nations, and international partners are committed to this. We thank you for your attention.
Distinguished members, we'd like to, of the press, would like to extend our thanks on behalf of the United Nations and ECOWAS for taking your time from your busy schedule to attend this press take-out, this joint press take-out. You can have the opportunity now to take photos, and then thereafter we share the communicate with you for publication. Security needs. Yeah, we gave that to you, don't worry about that.
Okay, let's have a talk.
Yes.
We'll come back.
Okay, so they can wait.
Yeah,